The 2022 Genesis G70 and the 2022 Kia Stinger are pretty much the exact same car. They both have the same engine, they both have the same transmission, they're both on the same platform, and they are both made by the same parent company, Hyundai Motors. But I'm willing to bet you your subscription to my channel that these two cars are actually very different from behind the steering wheel. So how different are they? Well, let's go for a drive and find out. Here in Canada, both cars are only available with all-wheel drive, whereas in the United States, they're also available as rear-wheel drive sedans. Furthermore, the Kia Stinger is only available with a twin-turbo V6 engine in Canada, while the US spec Stinger is also available with a 2.5-liter turbo 4-cylinder. The G70 has the same V6, as well as a 2-liter turbo available in both countries. So this 3.3-liter twin-turbocharged V6 produces 368 horsepower and 376 pound-feet of torque. However, in the Genesis G70, it has 3 horsepower less than in this Kia Stinger, but exactly the same torque. I find that a bit strange, seeing as how it's the exact same engine, but this Kia Stinger is a little bit heavier than the Genesis G70, about 70-ish kilograms, somewhere around there. So maybe that's why it has a discrepancy. I don't know. Regardless, both cars can accelerate 200 kilometers an hour in around, well, just under 5 seconds. And between the two cars, the engines feel pretty much identical. They respond really good, as long as you're above, say, 2,000 RPMs. Anything below that and the turbos just take a while before they reach their proper spooling up point, let's say. But once the turbos do spool up into their correct threshold, then there's barely any turbo lag. However, the big difference between the two cars is the way that these engines sound. And I'm not talking about the enhanced audio that gets pumped in through the cabin, through the stereo system. The exhaust on the Genesis G70 just has a little bit more of a sporty tone. It sounds louder, but also a little bit better than this Kia Stinger. In this one, it just sounds a little muffled. As for fuel economy, on paper, the Genesis G70 achieves slightly better fuel economy figures than the Kia Stinger. 9.1 liters per 100 kilometers on a highway and 13.5 liters per 100 kilometers in a city versus 9.6 liters per 100 kilometers on a highway and 13.7 liters per 100 kilometers in a city for the Kia Stinger. In the real world though, I average pretty much the exact same fuel economy numbers between the two cars, 12.5 liters per 100 kilometers on a combined cycle. As for the transmission, both of these cars have 8-speed automatics, and in comfort mode, you don't really feel the shifts. They're really smooth. In sport mode, or Sport Plus in this G70, the shifts are quick, and if you want to take over shifting duties with the steering wheel mounted paddle shifters, they are quick to respond to your inputs. I haven't really noticed that big of a difference between two cars when it comes to shifting gears, but it kind of feels like the G70 is a little bit more crisp in Sport Plus mode than in the Kia Stinger. But that could just be a placebo effect. Is that what it's called? Placebo effect? Or that thing where you think it's different, but it's actually the same. However, in your head, you think that it's different. I don't know. I can't remember what it's called, but if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But I think it's called a placebo effect. Anyway, the G70, it feels really good when it comes to shifting gears. The Kia Stinger, pretty much exactly the same. Or it is exactly the same. When it comes to stopping the cars, both of them have Brembo calipers on all four corners. And these are fantastic brakes. To some, the brake pedal may feel a little bit too sensitive when you first step on it, but after a while you do get used to it. And personally, I do like a more sensitive feeling brake pedal because it just gives you that extra bit of confidence to really stomp on it if you're in an emergency situation. When it comes to driving around twisty roads, the Genesis G70 feels a little bit more sporty and engaging to drive. Like I said earlier, it is only available with an all-wheel drive system here in Canada, and yet it still feels very much like a rear-wheel drive car. As in, it kind of wants to get the back end to step out of line if you push it really hard, and of course if you have traction control and stability control completely turned off. Whereas the Kia Stinger, it feels a bit more neutral around the corners. Furthermore, the steering weight in the Genesis G70 is a little bit heavier, so it really makes you work at it a little bit more than in the Kia Stinger when you're driving around twisty roads. On the other hand, in the Kia, the steering weight just isn't quite as heavy as in the Genesis G70. It feels a bit lighter. It's great for maneuvering in a city, but for driving enjoyment, I can definitely tell the difference between the two cars. I'm not saying that it's not sporty or anything like that, because this Kia Stinger is a sporty sedan. It's just that if you want a bit more of a sporty drive, then the G70 is the one you should be looking at. And it's also the same story when you go around corners. You feel the body roll a little bit more in this Kia Stinger than you do in the Genesis G70. Both of them have adaptive dampers, and both of them adjust depending on which drive mode you're in. But even so, comparing the sportiest setting between the two, the Kia Stinger just allows for a little bit more body roll than the Genesis G70. As I said, both of these vehicles have adaptive dampers, and when they're in their softest setting, comfort mode, the Kia Stinger just feels a little bit more supple when you drive over bumps. You don't feel the shunts of, let's say, manhole covers, for example, in this Kia Stinger as much as you do in the Genesis G70. Now, I'm not saying that the Genesis G70 is uncomfortable compared to this Kia Stinger, because it still is quite comfortable. It's just that for everyday comfort, I'd probably prefer the Kia Stinger over the Genesis G70. And it's the same story when it comes to noise inside the cabin. The G70, you hear quite a bit more of the engine's exhaust noise. And I'm talking about the actual engine exhaust noise, not the enhanced sounds that you get from the stereo system. As well, you also hear a tiny bit more of the tire noise against the road in the G70 than you do in this Kia Stinger. So again, for daily commutes, the Stinger is the one to go for. As for interior space in both of these cars, there's plenty of it up here in the front. 6'4" of me has absolutely no issues with legroom and headroom. I did have to lower the seat all the way at the bottom to have more headroom, which does have an effect in the back, which I'll get to a little bit later on. But other than that, plenty of space in both vehicles. In terms of design, here in the Genesis G70, it all looks pretty much exactly the same as last year's model. The difference being is this new touchscreen. It is larger than last year's, and it has the latest infotainment system. The other change is right in front of me with the driver instrumentation. Last year's model had dual analog gauges and a central digital display. This year's model has an analog speedometer and fuel gauge, as well as a digital tachometer and also additional information in the center. I was expecting it to be a full digital display like in this car's bigger brother, the G80, which is optional by the way, but instead it has it the same way as the 2.5 G80 has it. So half analog, half digital. It works, it's just I kind of prefer the one in the previous years or in the Kia Stinger where it's dual analogs and the center part is digital. And speaking of the Kia Stinger, I kind of like how that one looks a little bit more than this G70. I especially like it with the optional suede package that it has. So it has suede on the center of the dashboard, as well as on the seats and the door panels. I mean, this Genesis G70 doesn't look that bad. It actually looks really good. But personally, I kind of prefer suede over leather. Let's go sit in the back. So back here, it is really, really tight. And I'm sure that there's a dirty joke in there somewhere. But yeah, it's unbelievably tight back here in the Genesis G70. This seat is in my driving position, and as you can see, legroom is pretty much non-existent. Headroom, head is brushing up against the headliner. There is a little indentation, but it doesn't really help all that much. There is more room in the back of the Kia Stinger, and that's because the Kia Stinger actually has a slightly longer wheelbase. So even though back there my knees still are touching up against the back of the front seat, it's nowhere near as bad as it is in this G70. And also remember how I said in the front that I had to lower the seat all the way down? Well, that has an effect on how much space I have for my feet. Right now, I got none. And it's the same story in the Kia Stinger. It's exactly the same. Barely any space for my feet if the front seat is lowered all the way at the bottom. Other than that, both of these cars come with heated seats in the back as well as ventilation controls, basically just turning it on and off. It doesn't have a 3-zone climate control. And there are cup holders, of course, as you would expect. The one thing that the Genesis G70 has over the Kia Stinger is that the passenger seat, you can move it forwards or backwards with little buttons right here on the side. And of course, you can also move the backrest as well. Yeah, let's get out of here. If I can get out, it's gonna be difficult. Oh, ow. Oh. I'm stuck. Ow. No, genuinely, I am stuck now. Oh, this is undignified. Oh. With the Kia Stinger being a hatchback design, it predictably has more cargo capacity. With the rear seats up, it has 660 liters, whereas the G70 only has 297 liters of cargo volume. The rear seats can fold down in both cars for more space, but the G70 does have that restrictive pass-through. The 2022 Kia Stinger is the less expensive of the two, with a starting price of $50,495 Canadian. By contrast, the 2022 Genesis G70 starts at $54,500 Canadian with the V6 engine. If you want it with the 2-liter engine, then the starting price is $45,000 Canadian. They come well equipped in base form, but these demo vehicles are the top spec trims. They are fully loaded with every luxury feature that you'd expect from cars like these, including soft leather, or suede in the Stinger, sunroof, head-up display, heated and ventilated front seats, heated rear seats, navigation, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connectivity, surround view cameras, power-operated trunks, and a full suite of advanced driver and safety aids, to name a few. As for how these cars look, well, the Kia Stinger has had a bit of nip and a bit of tuck in the headlights and the taillights, and of course the new Kia logo. But the Genesis G70 has had the full plastic surgery. It's kind of like that show Botched, except the G70 is not botched because I think it looks fantastic. It looks kind of like an alien, and it gets a lot more heads turning than this does, even though this is in a very bright and eye-catching red. I've noticed more people looking at this than that. So in terms of looks, I personally prefer this. So out of these two, which one is best? Well, that really depends on what you want from a sedan. Do you want something more practical and comfortable? Go for the Kia Stinger. Do you want something more sporty and engaging to drive? Go for the Genesis G70. Or do you want to spend more money and have less features? Go for the BMW M340i or Mercedes-Benz C43 AMG. My point is, you have a lot of choice. And, well, let me know, which one would you pick? One of these two or one of the German rivals? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, if you want to know more about both of these vehicles, I wrote a comparison review of them over on my website. You can find that link in the video description. And as always, I will see you in the next car or truck, or it'll probably be an SUV. And sorry for the noises of those motorcycles. They're just practicing their wheelies and stoppies. I don't know if this microphone picks it up or not, but anyway, apologies. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and see you in the next video.